Hello and welcome back to The Broken Doll, and today I come to you with my wonderful Chatty Cathy family. This is what I have for my Chatty Cathy. I have Chatty Cathy right here. I have the little brother. This is called Tiny Chatty Brother. This over here is called Chatty Baby. And then I have Charmin, two different Charmins back here. I do have a third Charmin, and I think she's a redhead. Now the blonde is like almost like a blonde silver color in there, but she's in her original dress, shoes, not the socks though. The other one, the redhead, she sits down on a shelf down below because I don't have no place to put her up. And her hair's kind of mucky right now. But anyways, she needs to really be cleaned up. But I think she does do some talking. She can talk. Let's see. It's very muffled. And I think that, over all the years, she's just seen better days. But anyhow, as it may be, a lot of them just don't talk anymore. They're non-talkers. And they can be fixed. Something I would like to do down the road, but something I haven't dived into. So Chatty Cathy was invented by a woman named Ruth Handler in the year of 1959, and she was done in 1965. Cathy was described as being blonde, blue eye, and buck tooth. Ruth Handler was also the one who invented the Barbie doll. She could say 11 random things. Now they say, I don't know if I like this being said. I don't want to really get too heavy into this topic. It's not my forte because I have my own thoughts and feelings, but I'm going to let a few of my feelings kind of eke out. Some of you may disagree, some might agree. Maybe it's the time I was born in that I agree with some of this, and yet I do have some things throughout the years that I've changed on. But I have to go back to the day. We're going back to the early 60s. They say that the types of things that Chatty Cathy said on her records, what they recorded for her, was gender stereotyping. I don't know if you can really say that for its day. If I was to get that doll, I could, back in that day, if I was given a Chatty Cathy, I could relate to that because that was my world then. I don't know this world today as a little girl. I knew that world back in 1960 as a little girl, and it would make sense to me, those things being said. Little girls wanted to be a mummy back then. I'm not saying I don't want to be today, don't get me wrong. But we were offered that. Now you say, oh, that's terrible. But that was my world. That's the world I was in. We held our babies close to us, our dolls close to us. They were our babies. And in that little girl world back then. Now, I know they're still the same today, but there's a different twist to it today where little girls are now giving where you can do more. Barbie is doing so much more. Back then when Barbie was being made, she was a home woman to us. Like she was somebody who was a homemaker. She was the one who kept the home light burning. In our little world of girls that I grew up with, Barbie wore very everyday clothing. Even though she had higher sophisticated clothing out even then, we couldn't relate to that. So I noticed a lot. I remember noticed a lot when I was a little girl, even when I got my Dollykins, that my Dollykins wore clothing that my mother wore. She went to a lady and she said to her, can you make my daughter some clothes for her Dollykins? The type of clothes that I got for my Dollykins was very nice clothing, but trended towards what that lady wore and what my mother wore. And I had no problem with it because that's what I saw. That was my world. I saw women dressed like that. I come from a working class neighborhood, where they worked in factories, and that was it. And that was my world. So I related very well to it. So when they say gender stereotyping, I don't know. I'm kind of iffy on that because I relate to that. And I feel comfortable in it because that was my world as a little girl back then. Now today, that I can see them saying that, but it's not a fair statement because that's what the world was offering us at the time. Now, did women fight for more? Sure we did. Sure, we opened up doors and avenues and everything else along the way. We wanted more. We wanted to do some things more. Yes, we could. Now I'm going to go to another step here, what they said about it. They said that Ruth Handler made the doll, but when it was on the assembly line, the women did the hair and they made the clothing. And the men did the insides of the doll, the recordings and everything, the records, putting that all together. And again, they said that was gender stereotyping again. But remember, it was Ruth Handler who made the doll, who invented the doll. Okay, so it was a woman. So you're kind of stepping in, you know, I remember when we were traveling through the States, you could go to this place where you could stand in 5 different states. There were places where you could be in the United States and Canada at the same time. So I feel like this is what I'm also in. I'm in this split. I'm standing in 2 different generations of what they think. And I don't like using those words for back then. Women were probably very open to the fact they got a job. They're producing some money for the home. I don't know if they even went to that level. They might have. They said, why are the men only doing that and we can't do it? There probably were women that were saying that back then. But I didn't hear it. I just know I got a job. You know, I can now produce some money for the home. I can now bring things into the home a little bit better and help my husband out. You know, or women who were single mothers. They were there then just as well as they were 50, 60 years before me. You know, so the thing is that's a very, I don't know, I walk tenderly through this part. And I don't know how you feel about it. You might have your own thoughts. You might agree with me. You might disagree with me. But it was my world back then. And to many of my subscribers, it was their world too. Sure, we were seeing women. I mean, I remember watching on television women marching and burning their bras. Now, my mother said she wasn't going to burn her bra because of the fact that they were too expensive and she needed all the support she could get, you know, so, but she agreed with the idea, you know, but, you know, it took a lot for women to crawl out of that and now are in places. And I'm not saying we should have stopped that. It's just that I don't like using that thing, gender stereotyping. It didn't seem like that to us back in that in those moments, you know, that we were, and yet it might have for some, but you didn't hear it, or it might have been mumbled, but I don't know, it just, I'm on top of it, I was a child, so a lot of that could have been, I didn't hear a lot of it. You know, I remember in the 70s when the women were marching and burning their bras, I remember that. I was about 10 years old at the time, you know, and I was watching them all marching, great big hordes of them going down. This was in the United States, and they were just down the streets, you know. They were upset. They wanted more. They wanted that type of stuff to stop. It took time for that to roll and to get into that. Just like for women to get their vote, you know. So, okay, I went off topic a little bit there. Okay, we're going to bring this back in, okay. We want to come back to the doll. But that's what was said in this article that I was reading. And it just bothered me. And I don't like, I don't know, I don't like that being said without a lot of explanations behind it. And so freely said, we can't say those things so freely because it was a time period. And we have to accept for what it was at the time. But anyways, these dolls were made during that time. And they were going to repeat what the world was saying in that moment and at that time. Now imagine today, if Chatty Cathy was just being made today, it would be saying stuff according to today. And there might have been 50, 60 years later, women say they were too liberated. You know, so who knows? Oh, too much freedom. You know, I don't know. Or I'm glad we got more freedom than what they did back then. They think they had something, we got more now. So we have to leave it in that little corner of the world, of that time period, and enjoy it for what it was. So if she says things that relate to the home, we should accept that because it is what it was at that time. And not to put down gender stereotyping it because only women did that. And only men did that. It's not a very healthy thing to be saying, I don't think. I think we need to just go, yeah, it was the time, you know, and leave it there. But anyways, these are wonderful dolls, and they were very well made. The only thing that doesn't last is their voice box, which is natural to happen. But the doll itself lasts. You can see they're still standing and looking very nice. You know, a little bit of brush to the hair, and they're looking great. You know, and you can wipe them down. They're very durable and wonderful, wonderful dolls. And I'm glad to have these 4. Some were gifted to me, some I found. I'll give you a little story. My husband and I were at a thrift store, and he found this little guy here with his hat, complete, shoes, everything. And I was still raising little kids still. And he said, look what I found. And my heart wanted that doll very much so. But I wasn't ready yet to get back into dolls. I had children still that needed my attention. And I said, no, not time yet. And a lady was following him around, and she wanted the doll. I said, now just put it down. She grabbed it up so fast. if I wanted to have a second thought about going back and getting the doll, there was none. It was at that moment, and I never did have I regretted it, but do I remember that? Yes. And I remember him with his, I don't have his hat or his original shoes, but I do have the outfit, you know, that marks him in as to who he is. But if I ever find another one complete, sure, I will pick him up. He didn't talk, though. He was a non-talker, but that one at the store. But they do pop up every now and again. They do run a little bit, you know. I was looking at some of them on eBay. They do have a little bit of a price behind. Not anything up and beyond. You could save up very quickly for one. You know, you're looking at anywhere, depending on the condition. Everything's always about condition, these with dolls. But, you know, you're looking at anywhere from, I think, about 40 and up. You know, so you could get one still maybe naked, you know, but you know, a lot of little doll clothes fit them. Now she's in her original dress and her little undershirt. He's original, she's original, her shoes are original, not the socks. She's not, and she's not. You can see I don't have dolls in their original, but they still show wonderful, and over time you can find little dresses for them and clothes for them just as well, or make your own as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video and of my little chatty family here. Chatty Cathy came out in 1959 to 1965. They say Charmin came out in 63 and 64, and that was it. And then these other ones were around 62. In the early 60s, these came out. By the time I became aware of Chatty Cathy, they were already, other dolls were coming out past them. There were other singing chatties. There's other chatty dolls out there that were made afterwards just as well that you can find. I don't know how deep I want to go into the chatty family. I feel I'm quite fine with what I have. But if ever a singing chatty came along, I'll put her in the collection. But very nice dolls, very well made. And again, let's just remember, a lady, a woman made these dolls up. Wonderful stuff. And just like with the Grace S. Putnam, she made the Bilo Baby. A lot of women were out there pounding and pushing themselves into areas where men only tread. And we were there just as well. Maybe not as many, but we were making our mark. And what wonderful dolls these were that put a little bit of a fingerprint into history of our doll world. Wonderful, wonderful. So anyways, I hope you enjoy seeing my little collection, my little how my feelings about some things in there. Now you may not agree, you might not, you might, you know, just Tammy's thoughts for the day. But anyways, thank you for joining me. A lot more to come. And I'm going to go outside and take a look at my doll that I just glued together. That's my next step. Thanks again. We'll be coming back. For those that are passing by, you like what you heard here today, give me a subscribe, thumbs up please, and a comment. I do appreciate them. And I appreciate all my subscribers, both old, new, and in between. Thanks again for joining me. Bye-bye.